Welcome in, everybody, and welcome back for another edition of the Go Bills podcast. I'm so excited to have you guys back, all of my Bills Mafia members. The Mafia, we cannot wait for the season to begin. It's an excellent season. We are so hyped up for the season because of what happened last year. I know we have that bitter feeling in our chest still, but we're only 3 weeks away. Yes, that is Jordan Poyer days away from the kickoff of the season. The Bills will kick off this season against the Los Angeles Rams, the Super Bowl champion Los Angeles Rams. So welcome in, everybody. Cannot wait for that. But first and foremost, we at Go Bills podcast would like to send our condolences out to the family, friends, and teammates of Bills tight end Dawson Knox. Today is a little bit of a tragic day. Well, it is a tragic day for the family. The passing of Bills tight end Dawson Knox's brother that happened earlier today at the age of 22. Very unfortunate situation, but our thoughts and prayers go out to them. This is a situation that I wasn't really expecting to talk about on the podcast today, but it's something that needs to be brought up, and I want everybody who is a Bills Mafia member, please send your condolences out to Dawson Knox. It's very much appreciated at this time. It's a tragic situation, but our thoughts and prayers go out to the family. He was a linebacker at Florida International University, but not really sure what the details are of what happened, and I'll keep that to the family to release that information, but we would like to send our condolences out to Dawson Knox. Without further ado, we're going to talk about actually the tight end position today. We started off this series, the state of the Bills roster. We kind of changed the name a little bit because we've moved on from training camp, now focusing on the first 2 games of the preseason, moving on to that. Remember, only 3 preseason games this year, and no longer 4 preseason games. But we're moving on to the offense today, which I'm so excited to talk about. We're moving on from our former offensive coordinator in Brian Dable to a new offense ran by Ken Dorsey, who was our quarterbacks coach last year. So that's very exciting to have. Not really sure what the offense is going to be ran out of here, but from multiple sources we have heard that this is going to be a 2 tight end set, which I believe this segment really talks about what we should look forward to in the offense. So let's begin by talking about the tight ends, who we have returning. We'll move on to the newcomers, talk about the departures, get to know some of the guys that are going in the tight end room. We did release 1 tight end already with rosters trimming down to 85 players. That happened on Tuesday. We released Jaden Weidermer, who ended up signing with the New England Patriots, signed today by the New England Patriots. So we wish him all the best in New England, but we don't wish him all the best when he's playing against the Bills. But let's begin with the returnees. We have Dawson Knox returning for his 5th season in Buffalo. Coming in, he's going to be the starter. You know what he can bring to the table. We have Quentin Morris, who is a second-year player for the Bills, undrafted player from Boise State. And we have, Bowling Green. And we have Tommy Sweeney, who is coming into the team after this will be his 3rd year with the team, 4th year with the team, but 3rd year playing. And then we also have newcomer O.J. Howard, who is coming in from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Former Super Bowl champion O.J. Howard, which gives us another option for a Super Bowl caliber player who is on our team. We also brought in Von Miller in the offseason. So that's 2 players that we brought in that have Super Bowl rings, something that we would love to see the Bills achieve. Key departures this year, we don't have anybody that departed, actually, which is a little surprising. We did have Lee Smith the previous year that departed, but this year we don't have anybody that departed because the Bills ran with a 2 tight end set, and we kept Quentin Morris on the practice squad. The new numbers for the Bills, We have number 8 in OJ Howard. That's the only new number that we have. Everybody has stayed the same with their jersey numbers. 88 is obviously Dawson Knox. 85 is Quentin Morris. 89 is Tommy Sweeney. So what are we going to expect from this offense? What are we going to expect from the tight end group? Like we said earlier, we talked about the Bills are going to be coming out with a new offensive coordinator in Ken Dorsey. So we're not really sure what the offense is going to look like. This will be the first time, or the second time that Ken Dorsey is an offensive coordinator in the NFL. I know he really did rely on the 2 tight end set down in Carolina when he was there. So we will be using that set. The Bills only had one active active tight end for a handful of games, which was a little bit concerning because what if something happened like last year where we had Dawson Knox that got injured? I know we like to utilize the second tight end as the emergency tight end, and we had Reggie Gillum, who was the emergency tight end. You can throw him into this list, but that is the fullback position for me. And I believe that we've solidified the position so that we don't have to really utilize Reggie Gillum unless something really did happen to 2 of these guys, or possibly even 3 of these guys that do make the roster. So we won't go into Reggie Gillum in this segment because he is a fullback instead of a tight end, but he is a hybrid player. But you have OJ Howard coming in from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He is a former top 10 pick for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who started off his career very, very solid, having, above average numbers, but kind of fell off the wagon a little bit with the emergence and new coming of Rob Gronkowski coming into the team, and he kind of fell off and didn't really do anything his last 2 years after his injury to his Achilles. He tore his Achilles and then wasn't the same player. So this looks like it's going to be like the type of deal you see with the MLB, where you bring in a player on a 1-year contract and see if he can raise his value for the next offseason so that he can sign a long-term contract. But that's what I see. Howard, however, did play very far into the third and fourth quarter, playing with the third strings. But I think this is something that we shouldn't really worry about because we did only have 4 tight ends in this game. Jalen Weidemer was probably the tight end that you were expecting to see more of, but he ended up getting cut. So I think they were trying to keep him healthy a little bit, and they do like to run these 2 tight end sets with Tommy Sweeney and OJ Howard playing in the role in those 2 tight end sets because you don't really want to play Dawson Knox. You don't want to risk the injury with him. He didn't even play last time, so the 2 tight ends were probably going to be needed. So that's why he played late into the game. But let's begin with the starters. We're going to start with Dawson Knox, incredibly athletic tight end, coming off of a career year, having 52 catches for 676 yards, 5 touchdowns over the first 2 seasons in his career, and then blossomed onto the scene, having almost a Pro Bowl level season, not quite a Pro Bowl level season, but coming on to this year, having 49 catches for 587 yards and 9 touchdowns, which are incredible numbers. Really emerged after the tight end university coming in. He had fewer drops in 2021 and showed that he was an excellent blocker, which is incredible stats to have. You want to be a really good blocker. So he really did develop into the number 1 tight end for the Bills. And as of right now, he would probably be the number in the top 10 as far as tight ends in the league right now. He was targeted 71 times on the team, which was 4th place on the team for this year. And was also in 4th place in receiving yards on the team. So you can show that Josh Allen is really trusting Dawson Knox and really wanting to throw him the ball. He was 2nd on the team in total touchdowns, receiving touchdowns. So that Josh wants to throw him the ball. You can trust him. And you can tell by the relationship that Josh and Dawson have developed over the course of their career in Buffalo, you can really tell that he is now one of the go-to targets for Josh Allen, especially with Cole Beasley being out. You know that they're going to want that percentage that Cole Beasley had for his share of the passes coming his way. You know that those numbers are probably going to go to Dawson Knox, some to Diggs, some to Gabe Davis. So you know that the shares are probably going to come more towards Dawson Knox as well. Knox did lower his numbers in drops to 8 passes over the last 2 years, which is another great stat after very high numbers the first 2 years in his career. He did have about 9 drops a year over the first 2 years of his career. So that's a good number to have brought down. And he looks the part. He is the number 1 tight end. You know what you're going to get out of him. I do expect the numbers to probably go down a little bit just because we are going to rely on this 2 tight end set. As far as the touchdowns go, I do think the numbers are going to go down, but I do think the receptions as well as the yardage is going to go back up. I think the ball is going to be moved around a little bit more. We're going to utilize the running backs more this year. And I think we're going to utilize Dawson Knox more as a blocker this year. So I think the numbers might go down a little bit as far as touchdowns, but I do see that the numbers are going to be right there for him. Moving on, we have O.J. Howard, who is coming into his first season in Buffalo, signing a 1-year contract with the Bills. He is a former top 10 pick for the Bucs. Howard is an incredibly athletic tight end. The only problem with him is he struggles to stay healthy. He's missed 22 games in his career with various injuries. The most significant injury he had was the Achilles injury in 2020, missing 12 games that season. He started off his career, great numbers. This is numbers that you want from a number 1 tight end. First 4 years, he had 94 receptions for 1,456 yards and 12 touchdowns. So those are numbers that you would want, about 500 yards per year. You would want the touchdowns to probably go up. You want more than 4 touchdowns a year from a tight end, obviously. But, these are good numbers especially for a number 1 tight end. But like I said, the biggest issue with him is his availability, missing 22 games over his career, various injuries such as ankle sprains and hamstring issues, Achilles injury, stuff like that. However, this past year was the first year that he did play in all 17 games. I do think that this is a good move for OJ, especially because this allows him to be able to take a step back, be the number 2 tight end, not worry about injuries. You're working with a really, really good athletic training staff in Buffalo, one of the best, probably the number 1 in my opinion, as far as keeping players healthy. We have, after previous years, especially in the drought, you did have a lot of injuries with players battling a ton of injuries. We're one of the most injured teams as far as the drought. I would say over the last 18 years of that drought, we were probably in the top 10 every single year in injuries. But moving on to the McDermott era in Buffalo, the numbers have gone down quite a bit, and you can tell that they really do emphasize keeping players healthy, making sure that you take the right amount of time to diagnose an injury, recover from the injury, and then be back to the same player that you were before that injury. So that's a good step for OJ. That he's probably not going to play 85-90% of the snaps every single game unless Dawson goes out. But you can see him in maybe like 40-45% of the snaps, maybe even a little bit more. But that would be a good number for him so that he can stay healthy over the course of a 17-game season. So I expect that number to be right around, like I said, the 40-45% of snaps coming his way, possibly playing some special teams as well. But the biggest thing that worried me with O.J. Howard was, and this is something that everybody was worried about, was seeing him playing with the third-string team. which I think might have been a message sent to him like, hey, man, you're not showing up on the field. He hasn't really made any highlights in training camp as far as big time plays or anything like that. You've seen more big time plays from Quentin Morris as well as Jaden Weidermer, who was recently cut, but you saw bigger plays from them. Tommy Sweeney making some big plays, making a name for himself as well. But you haven't really heard anything from OJ Howard. You've kind of heard that he looked a little sluggish, didn't understand the offense, and he just didn't look the part. But this is an incredible tight end with incredible speed. He ran a 4.51 and is 40 coming into the draft. Has good size for a tight end. So, I mean, I do expect him to develop into the number 2 tight end and probably stay here. But again, if he doesn't stay, I mean, the contract isn't guaranteed. We could move on from OJ and only lose $1 million. So his contract was 1 year, $3.5 million. You bring in $2.5 million back on the salary cap. So that would be a good number to bring back. Moving on, we have Quentin Morris, who is a undrafted free agent out of Bowling Green State. He played his first 3 seasons at Bowling Green at the wide receiver position, having great numbers, finishing his wide receiver career at Bowling Green State with 105 receptions for 1,281 yards and 13 touchdowns. His best season he had at Bowling Green was in 2019, which he had 55 receptions for 649 yards and 4 touchdowns. However, after that year, he kind of made a decision and said, okay, I need to do something else to really blossom in the NFL and probably get, some offers there. So he ended up switching to the tight ends position, where he finished the season with 20 receptions for 248 yards and no touchdowns. So he's kind of struggled with the position. He ended up going undrafted in the 2021 NFL draft, signing with the Buffalo Bills, and was on the practice squad all season. He did get called up for the Jaguars game after Dawson Knox injured he broke his hand. So he got called up, but didn't receive any game action. Kind of a little bit surprising, especially when you have Tommy Sweeney coming in and you don't really know what you're getting out of Tommy Sweeney. So didn't play a second tight end to see what we had in him. But don't know why they did that, but it would have been nice to see a little bit of Quentin Morris last year, get him some experience. The biggest thing with Quentin Morris is he doesn't have a lot of experience at the tight end position. Not really sure if he has the size or not to be a tight end in the NFL. But what he does have is excellent blocking ability, and he has the ability to high point the ball. One of the biggest issues that he has is he doesn't have the large route tree that normal tight ends would have. But he is working on that route tree. He is making some good steps in training camp. You see him with some great catches, contested catches in training camp, but he still needs to develop. And this is a solid player who could possibly challenge OJ Howard for that second tight end spot, especially with him struggling, not making any real big splashes in training camp or anything like that. You kind of give the edge a little bit to Quentin Morris on that spot on the roster. But if he doesn't sign, or if he doesn't make the active roster, this is a very, very solid practice squad player, and I would love to have him back on the practice squad, possibly getting called up later in the season if one of the top 2 in OJ Howard and Dawson Knox gets injured. Moving on, we have Tommy Sweeney, who is a former 7th round pick by the Buffalo Bills, who never really blossomed into the number 2 tight end role. The Bills gave him the number 2 tight end role last year after Sweeney missed most of the 2020 season with various injuries. He started the year off for the 2020 season on the injured reserve list, physically unable to perform is a specific term that they use for that. Right after that, he ended up going on the reserve COVID list. And then he was activated later in the season, came back He was activated late in the season. However, he did develop myocarditis. I might have pronounced that a little bit wrong, so bear with me. I'm not a doctor. I don't really know how to pronounce that. But because of the virus, he was ruled out for the rest of the season. He did come back in 2021. Didn't really make a big splash. Very, very low numbers, especially for a number 2 tight end. These are very, very low numbers. But he had 9 catches for 44 yards and a touchdown. He did play in 6 games with Dawson Knox missing various games because of the broken hand. He did start a couple of games for us. And again, these are numbers that, he should have picked up. He should be at least 250 yards for the season. So you do see why the Bills did bring in a number 2 tight end to bring some depth in there. But these are numbers that you don't really like. So I understand why the Bills did bring in another tight end. And this is a make or break off season for Sweeney. I mean, if he doesn't step up, the writing could be on the wall and we could move on from him. The top position battle for the roster, I would say it probably goes down to O.J. Howard versus Quentin Morris and Tommy Sweeney. I do give the edge a little bit to O.J. Howard just because he's the top 10 pick here. And I think that he will step up and he is the more athletic tight end. That's something that Buffalo was looking for, is the speed in the offense. They want to add a little bit more speed. And I think that's why they did bring in O.J. Howard. And I think it would be a good move to keep him in Buffalo just because he has the experience. He knows what to do at the right situation. And if you do have a situation where Dawson Knox goes down for a lengthy period of time like he did last year, even though he only missed a few games because of that hand injury, but this is a reliable number 2 tight end and would be a great complement in this offense, especially to Diggs and Gabe Davis. So I think this is a player that you could really move around and play chess with, move him into the slot position, utilize him in his big body. You can put him in the 2 tight end situation, move him out wide, move Gabe Davis inside, throw a couple fades to him in the back of the end zone. So I think this is a player that we should keep, figure out a way to get him more comfortable in this offense. And he doesn't have to be a big-time player. He doesn't have to be the Stephon Diggs. He doesn't have to be the Gabe Davis in this offense. You bring him in for, special plays, and you can use him as more of an Isaiah McKenzie role where he comes in, does his thing, and comes out. So you don't really have to worry about him being, the man in the offense. But I think that he will develop into the number 2 tight end. And I think this is one of the better number 1, number 2 punches in the NFL. So I'm really happy with that. And I hope that we can, if we do keep him, I hope that both of them stay healthy and we do develop that 1-2 tandem like you saw in the previous years with, Antonio Gates and I can't even think of the guy that was the number 2 behind him, but the number 2 in San Diego and Los Angeles. You look at that, you look at Cameron Brate and Rob Gronkowski, you look at Rob Gronkowski and Aaron Hernandez, rest in peace. But you think about that situation. You think about the great tight ends that played in the NFL. You think of, Dawson Knox being the number 1 tight end in the offense, and then you think of the complement to them. This is something that we really haven't had in a long, long time. Haven't really had that number 2 tight end that can come into the offense and be a matchup nightmare. So it's a good area to have. But that's where I stand on that. I do believe that Howard will be the number 2 tight end. Moving on, we're moving on to the next thing. We'll talk about some of the injuries in camp. Not really any big names that have been injured, just more of the rest days in camp. I do believe that Dawson Knox will be missing this week's game. I don't expect him to be there. Don't know if he's going to be, but I expect him to miss this week's game possibly because of the passing of his brother. So for personal reasons, he will miss this game. More soreness that we've seen. We saw a couple guys come back, and Daquan Jones coming back. So not really any big injuries. We did see Tavon Austin come back, so that's good to see him coming back. I haven't really seen anybody on the injury report, so we do expect Jordan Poyer to be coming back within the next couple of weeks. That's another sign that would be great. And I can't really think of anybody else that's coming back. This week we do face the Denver Broncos at home in Buffalo. Week 2 of the preseason. We have heard from Sean McDermott on who will be the starter for this game, the second preseason game. It will be quarterback Josh Allen starting this game. Most of the starters will be playing in this game, with McDermott calling it a healthy amount playing in this game. Whatever that term means, I do expect the starters to probably play about a quarter in this game, maybe moving into the second quarter a little bit. But the real task in this game that I want to see is the offensive line stepping up. I think that last game against the Indianapolis Colts, which this is kind of what the struggle will be going, at the beginning of the season, you kind of want to know what the offensive line will look like. But I felt like the offensive line didn't really have that aggressiveness that I want to see from this offense, especially with bringing in Aaron Kromer as the offensive line coach. You do want to see that aggressiveness as an offensive lineman. So I'm kind of a little bit worrisome of what the offensive line depth, especially the interior depth, is going to look like. So I do want to see the offense get back on the same page and develop into a good passing offense as well as a running offense. I felt like the run game, though, was the better part of the team this past game against the Colts. You did see some good runs by Zach Moss, as well as a couple of good runs by James Cook, a couple of runs by Duke Johnson. So I did feel like the run game was good, but we just want to see that passing game get a little bit better. So I know we did play the second string most of the game. Luke Trenna playing a lot of the game. So Greg Mance playing some of the game at the offensive line positions. So I do want to challenge the offensive line to have a better job in this game. And I do want to see what the starting offensive linemen look like, whether it's going to be Quinsbury starting at tackle, or is it going to be Spencer Brown starting as well. So I don't really know what we're going to see there, but I want to see the starting offensive line come out. We'll see how they're pass protecting, especially giving a clean pocket to Josh Allen. We don't want to see anything happening with him. So that's what I really want to see in this game. As far as the defense, what I really would like to see, I'd like to see that same aggressiveness that we did have when we had the corners, the rookie corners in Christian Benford and Kyer Elam out there. I want to continue that aggressiveness, see what they can do, see if they can get some passes defense, as well as batted balls as well. I want to see the same aggressiveness for the defensive linemen. I kind of felt like they did fall off a little bit, especially when Shaq Lawson and AJ Epinesa were out of there. Did kind of see that the offensive line was kind of struggling, wasn't really getting that pressure on the quarterback. So I do want to challenge them to get some more pressure on the quarterbacks. It's something I really want to see. I did like the interior pressure that we did have coming. I know that Tim Settle did play a couple of snaps. He didn't play a lot of snaps, but he did get a lot of pressure, especially against the number one team for the Indianapolis Colts. And going up against a incredible Pro Bowl level guard in Quentin Nelson, he got a lot of pressure on the quarterback there, even though he didn't come home with a sack or anything. The pressure that he did get on Quentin Nelson and making him move back and be unsettled and everything, it does, for a quarterback, it does hurt a lot. You don't really want to see that. So you don't want to have linemen coming at you. So is something that, makes you think a little bit before you throw that ball. But that's something I really want to see, is that pressure from the defensive linemen. So I challenge the defensive line to get a little bit more pressure, be a little bit more aggressive, and get some more speed, and get off your blocks a little bit sooner. So that's something that I do want to see. But I also want to see a little bit more out of a couple of wide receivers in Jay Kumaro. I felt like he did struggle a little bit last game. You do need to step up a little bit as far as, and Jamison Crowder. I don't really know what we're going to do. Khalil Shakur. I keep getting my names wrong. I know these are new guys, but I keep getting the names wrong. You got Khalil, you got Khair. So bear with me on that. But Khalil Shakur stepped up big this week, and he does look like he can fit the part as the number one slot receiver. And you have Isaiah McKenzie, who has been stepping up in practice and in training camp. So, I mean, your numbers being called, you got to step up. You got to show what you're made of, why we signed you. So, Jamison Crowder, got to step up. And as far as the backup quarterback position, Case Keenum, we traded a 7th-round pick for you. Got to step up, man. So stock up, stock down. These are the players that their stock is down right now, and can they bring it back up? Players that have their stock up, obviously Khalil Shakur, and most of the rookies. I mean, every single rookie had a really good game this past game. Going from, Kaiir Elam all the way down to Matt Araiza having a great game, Christian Benford having a great game. I mean, what more can you ask from these guys, especially Araiza? I mean, do you see the leg on that kid? 82-yard punt on his first punt. I mean, my goodness, can you imagine what this kid can do? You could probably punt the ball out of the stadium. But as far as the rookies, I felt like every single one of them were great. Every single one of them were. I mean, I can't say anything bad about them. But as far as the depth, got to step up. Got to step up, guys. Got to show what you're made of. I mean, this is the time, we got cuts coming. It's going to be the second round of cuts after this. I think we turn it down to 75 after this. And then we'll go from 75 down to 53. So you got to show why you deserve a roster spot right now. But, it's a hard time in the NFL. You don't want to cut these guys. You fall in love with these guys. But that's the business part of it. So you got to show why you're one of the 53 men that should be a part of the Buffalo Bills in the regular season. But that's something that we will see in the next couple of games. Overall, I guess that's about it, guys. I think that wraps it up. This has been the Go Bills podcast. And again, our thoughts and prayers are with Dawson Knox and his family, as well as the teammates and friends and everybody that knew Luke Knox. Very tragic situation that happened. And our thoughts and prayers are with them at this time. This has been the Go Bills podcast, and we appreciate each and every one of you guys that has been a part of this along the journey, from starting off on Instagram, moving our way to Facebook and YouTube now. We appreciate every single one of you guys. If you haven't already, if this is your first time coming on the podcast, please like, subscribe, follow us, shoot us a DM on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. We would love to have you guys join us. Keep the notifications up, because we have new content coming out every single week, and we look forward to bringing you the best content out there on the web. So if you haven't, subscribe to us, and we will appreciate that very, very much. This has been the Go Bills podcast, and we will see you guys next time.